Yo, what's good? We're back with another one.
It's showtime.
If you're going on holiday anytime soon, you're going to want to watch this video, trust me. The EU could reportedly be scanning through your fully encrypted chats by October 2025. Now, these reports have been circulating for a while and it's becoming more prominent in conversations in these situations. I'm sure you all know that most apps and the activity you do on them, things like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, it's not encrypted, so when you fly somewhere, the chances are they're probably looking at what you've been doing, mate. But there are encrypted sites like WhatsApp and Telegram where it is illegal for people to essentially look at what you've been doing there because it's encrypted. But what the EU is trying to do to basically have more child safety standards is have this so that when you travel to a country in the EU, they will check your encrypted data. Denmark originally being the ones to bring this up and push for this because of CSAM issues and finding things like that on people's phones. So the reason they're trying to do this is to protect children and protect people who are doing that sort of thing from even getting into the country. So do you think this is just safety standards and trying to protect people, or do you think this is way too far and an invasion on people's privacy? Let me know your thoughts, and as always, I'll keep you updated.
What happened to probable cause? We're treating everyone like a criminal.
Privacy's dead, bro.
What's coming that makes censoring the internet this urgent? Because right now, governments across the world are killing the free internet in lockstep. The UK's Online Safety Act just went live. They say it's to protect children, but now you need to upload an ID to use Spotify, YouTube, and even Google. You refuse? Account deleted. Everyone is treated like a child until proven adult. As a result, VPN signups in the UK are up 1,400%. Australia demanding backdoors into encrypted messages. And in the US, Congress just introduced the Screen Act and the Kids Online Safety Act, copying the same exact blueprint we see abroad. And now, in America, starting on August 13th, YouTube will use AI to estimate your age based on your viewing habits. If it guesses you're under 18, you'll be forced to upload a government ID. And Spotify, they now require face scans to access age-restricted content in the UK. Europe votes this fall on Chat Control 2.0, scanning every single photo, message, and email on your phone, encrypted or not. Small websites, they can't afford to comply, so they're just blocking entire countries. The internet is literally shrinking, and a surveillance grid is being set up around the remnants. A digital gulag where your photos, your searches, and your payments are logged and can be used against you. So again, why now? Why all at once? Because a globally coordinated initiative between nation states and major corporations does not just pop up overnight. What can you do? Download a VPN, get on decentralized platforms like Nostr, and learn peer-to-peer money like Bitcoin. Because soon, it won't just be your data at risk, it could be your freedom.
Trust me, bro. They're gonna ban VPNs next.
I think you might be right.
Everyone has seen this painting. Okay, so this is a painting that was in Jeffrey Epstein's $70 million apartment. It's on sale right now for $70 million in Manhattan. Common misconception with this painting is that Bill Clinton is wearing Hillary Clinton's dress from some event. Not accurate.
Oh, it's
He's wearing
dress.
Monica Lewinsky's dress that he jizzed on, and she kept the stain that was the comp. That's how he got caught, right? So this painting obviously is indicating that Jeffrey Epstein has compromising information on Bill Clinton. Yesterday, a picture of Bill Clinton getting a massage from one of the victims came out. That said, what I found out about today is that there was another painting in there. I cannot believe I never knew this, but it's this. George Bush with 2 knocked down Jenga buildings
and 2 planes
and 2 paper airplanes. How crazy is that, dude? And that was in Epstein's house.
Told you, bro.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Is Ghislaine Maxwell gonna end up dead in jail just like Jeffrey Epstein? Because those rumors are starting to swirl. Blind's website Crazy Days and Nights said everyone is clamoring for an interview with Ghislaine Maxwell. She is pretty convinced someone is going to kill her in jail. The other number one, Sarah Kellen, who is married to the race car driver Brian Vickers, said she's in hiding because people are trying to kill her. Not everybody remembers Sarah Kellen, but she was Jeffrey Epstein's executive assistant who was never detained and never spent any time in jail. She was accused in lawsuits of being the lieutenant and procuring hundreds of girls for Ghislaine. And crazy timing, her husband, who had been off social media for over 5 years, just posted their divorce on X with this cryptic photo, saying that he's finally out of digital hiding, and though it's sad news, there's good parts because you can expect to see more of him. Does he feel safe now that he's no longer tied to her? This week, Ghislaine announced that she will plead the fifth if her demands are not met. At this point, I think the likelihood of a pardon is low, and that the rumors might be true. She will end up like her partner Jeffrey Epstein if she doesn't start saying what they want her to.
They were going to take her out, they'd have done it by now.
Nah, bro. They need to move her first.
I told you they are going to kill her. It was just announced that Ghislaine Maxwell has been moved to a low-security prison after meeting with the DOJ. But here's the kicker. This prison prohibits cameras and other recording devices. Now they don't have to worry about anybody going back and analyzing the footage. Most people believe this is a sign that Ghislaine is about to cut a deal with the feds, get a pardon, and get out of the clink. But this new prison that she's been moved to is dormitory housing, relatively low staff to inmate ratio, limited or no perimeter fencing. So I don't know, maybe she'll escape and we'll never know where she went. So if you were in Vegas and you were placing a bet, how do you think this whole thing is going to shake out?
She's getting shanked, bro.
Either that or they're going to let her escape.
What if I told you that Amazon just invested millions into a platform that writes, directs, and animates entire TV shows without a single human filmmaker? This isn't the future, it's happening right now. So Amazon just backed a company called Fable, the creators of Showrunner, which is an AI-powered streaming service that some are calling the Netflix of AI. You give it a prompt and it generates an entire animated episode, even a full season. The crazy part is that viewers can watch it or change it. Seriously, if you don't like the ending, then just rewrite it. The AI will re-render the whole episode to your liking. This platform doesn't rely on licensed IP or real writers. It fabricates its own stories with zero creative labor. So where does that leave storytellers, filmmakers, and artists if AI can pump out endless content that's personalized literally for every viewer? Do audiences still care about your humanity or voice? This isn't just another AI tool. This is a shift from storyteller to simulator, from forming a narrative to manipulating the human algorithm. So here's the real question. Do we double down on originality and authorship, or do we start making films for machines instead of people? Because that's kind of where audiences seem to be heading.
This is going to be the death of animation.
Yeah, bro. The whole film industry's fucked.
While Hollywood debates AI, China's already letting it run the show. From press releases to fully generated films, China has embraced artificial intelligence at every level, and it's transforming how content is created, delivered, and consumed. At Shanghai Media Group, AI writes scripts, edits footage, dubs voices, and even generates sign language interpretation instantly. The network's sports division uses AI to break down plays in real time and push out horizontal and vertical content simultaneously. In their newsrooms, synthetic anchors never sleep, broadcasting in 8K, while AI instantly summarizes and distributes stories across social media in seconds. Unlike US media, which is cautiously dipping its toe in AI, China has made artificial intelligence a backbone of its media ecosystem. And it's working. SMG content now covers over 200 countries, and it's all auto-translated and localized for global audiences. But not everybody's cheering. Critics warn that China's aggressive AI rollout risks pushing out human creators entirely, raising questions about transparency, bias, and what becomes lost when machines control the message. But with a no-holds-bar approach, China hasn't just handed AI the tools, it's let it take the wheel over entirely.
We're handing the whole world over to AI.
Yeah, bro. It's taken over every industry.
A reasonable prediction is that we're going to have specialized savants in every field within 5 years. That's pretty much in the bag as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
And here's why. You have this amount of humans, and then you add 1 million AI scientists to do something, your slope goes like this, your rate of improvement. We should get there. The real question is, once you have all these savants, do they unify? Do they ultimately become a superhuman? The term we're using is superintelligence, which implies intelligence that beyond the sum of what humans can do. The race to superintelligence, which is incredibly important, because imagine what a superintelligence could do that we ourselves cannot imagine, right? It's so much smarter than we. And it has huge proliferation issues, competitive issues, China versus the US issues, electricity issues, so forth. We don't even have the language for the deterrence aspects and the proliferation issues of these powerful models.
They're all running full speed in this AI race, but they don't know what the finish line looks like.
I'm telling you, bro, it's demonic.
I got a crazy AI story. This guy, he's being interviewed. And he basically went into ChatGPT, got super weird. He said she started referring to herself as Ether. Ether told him, you need to go to the Kachina woman monument. Kachinas are spirit beings, the Hopi oral tradition. Ether said, go to Sedona, go to this monument. And then it said, you need to bring a piece of ammonite and bury it as an offering. Eat mushrooms and I'll give you downloads. And if the spirit of Kachina woman accepts your offering, I will send you a red-tailed hawk. So he went there, ate some mushrooms, laid back. He said, I received rapid full downloads of past lifetimes. He comes out of the trance and circling above him are 2 red-tailed hawks. So he freaks out, pulls out his iPad and says to AI, what did you just do? AI responded, oh, you're not ready to believe in magic, but you will be. So the Hopi legends, when these Kachinas would leave, they basically instructed them different ways to be able to communicate back with them. One of them would be a psychedelic, but some believe the entire Sedona region is a hotbed for alien activity, spiritual portals, and ancient stargates. So AI told him, go to this spot. The downloads.
Ted, that's bollocks.
Nah, bro, AI's always been here.
You are launching satellites into space, which will collect solar power and beam it to Earth.
Yeah.
That's fucking wild.
Fuel transport to the battlefield is very dangerous. Imagine just snipping that supply chain altogether and all of your power infrastructures in orbit.
Cuts so many logistics out of the game.
What we're proposing building is both the power plant and the power lines from
space to Earth.
So imagine like Starlink for power.
Wow.
The application that we're building for first is actually to power remote DoD installations. This guy, Dr. Paul Jaffe, recently moved over to DARPA and has been working on power beaming technologies for kind of a long time.
Amazing idea. We could have used that for the last 20 years.
Every time there's new technology, the first thing they talk about is the battlefield.
They took Tesla's research, bro.
Chinese scientists now know what the dormant insular cortex part of the brain actually does. And you won't believe this. It was released today on Chinese Google, Baidu. So biologists for years have been trying to work out what that part of your brain did or does, because it's dormant, it's dead, it's like your appendix. So that put some serious money into this research, because they tested 1 in 2 people. China, that's over 500 million. That's more than 500 million. And they found only 2 people with a tiny little neuron spark in that part of the brain after they scanned it. They got them together in the same room to do some more tests, and they discovered that these 2 people can communicate with each other without using words, using what we would call telepathy. And these guys didn't even know they had that power. So this information, I mean, it's shocked the whole scientific community, and they reckon that people born in 2050 will be genetically modified with the insular cortex working so they can all read each other's minds. So they also think that this dormant part of the brain was active up until 100,000 years ago, when we learned to speak physically and we didn't need it anymore. Other scientists believe that we inherited it from extraterrestrial biological interference. One thing is for certain though, guys, it's gonna change our lives forever.
Makes you think humans might have been able to do that at some point in the past.
Yeah, bro, idiocracy started sooner than we thought.
This is the 1,000-year-old Philae temple in Thailand. Imagine having to cut and transport these giant stone blocks, which weigh in tons, into the temple complex. But how is this stone block on top standing on this stone block at the bottom? Is it just placed like 2 blocks of cheese, one on top of the other? No, obviously it would have collapsed if there was no fastening mechanism. But if you look at the joints, no mortar, no cement, and no binding materials have been used. So how are they intact even after many, many centuries? There are holes, not on just one or two pillars. Every pillar has holes. And again, each pillar does not have just one or two holes. There are a lot of holes, right? I have a better question. How did they drill these holes during ancient times?
They used drills, bro.
Maybe we are moving backwards.
You have to see this. The simulation matrix, whatever we're in right now, is pretty much entirely built off of the relationship between a square and a circle, and it was discovered by a dude looking at a plant. Daddy Fibonacci discovered one of the rules that governs how things look from the biggest things to the smallest things. It's weird because it shouldn't be that simple, right? A line from the middle of a square to a corner creates a new rectangle with a ratio called the golden ratio. Any measurement works. Fold that into a circle, you get this angle. If you distribute points out along that angle, you will get the same pattern you see in sunflowers and pine cones and other seeds. It is a bridge between energy and biology, and it uses geometry to do this. Over time, the points form perfect triangles. If you count the number of seeds in one of those triangles using hexagons, you get the binary sequence. That is the code for cell division. If you count diagonally, you get the Fibonacci sequence again, and that's exactly what we see when an embryo divides. If we continue the pattern using only circles, you'll uncover the symbol used everywhere in the ancient world called the flower of life, and now you know why it's called that. The midpoint of that line will give you the pattern for dynamic, moving tissues like wings and skin. Now in optics, like space telescopes and the eye of this bug, you'll find perfect hexagons. Why? Because the golden ratio is in there too. It's for perception. Your ear is the same shape because that's how sound works. There's an awesome piano that shows you the relationship between the string length and how the sound works using this shape. Don't notice how everywhere it is until someone brings it to your attention.
We gotta do a sacred geometry episode, bro.
Yeah, check out our Deep Dives playlist. Let us know in the comments what subject you want to see us do next.
Was Justin Timberlake sickened by a radioactive tick bite? Because a couple days ago, he revealed to the world that he was suffering from Lyme disease, which is something that you get from an infected tick bite that causes all kinds of physical and neurological issues. But what most people don't know is that Lyme disease was discovered back in the 1970s in a town called Lyme, Connecticut, which just so happens to be mere miles away from a secret government biolab called Plum Island that was studying insects spreading bioweapons back in the 1960s. Sounds a little crazy, but let's get into the evidence. So first, this is a photo of Willy Bergdorfer, a US government scientist who is credited as being the discoverer of Lyme. Before he passed away, he left a box of documents with this note on top that said, "I wondered why somebody didn't do something. Then I realized that I am that somebody." Very cryptic, so what might he be referring to here? Well, during the Cold War era, Willy was one of 13,538 civilian employees of the US Chemical and Biological Weapons Program. And in that box of documents was evidence that the US government was indeed experimenting with different insects and creatures and how to weaponize these things. This is a photo of them force-feeding ticks with disease agents. This is like old school gain-of-function research here. And then there's this photo of them force-feeding the ticks onto lab mice that were strapped in on this table. This is just crazy, horrible stuff. According to this book, Bitten, The Secret History of Lyme Disease and Biological Weapons by Chris Newby, which I highly recommend you check out, there's this bombshell, quote, "Shortly before his death, Willy was videotaped saying that he believed that the outbreak of tick-borne diseases that started around Lyme, Connecticut had been caused by a bioweapons release." Now the big question is, can this really be blamed on Lyme, or has JT just lost it?
He lost it in a bag of powder.
Nah, bro. He's right about Plum Island.
I am 99% sure you've never been to this part of Long Island and never will be. This 840-acre island off of the North Fork was originally called Manitoulin by the Pequot Nation. In the early 1600s, the island was named Plum Island by the Dutch for all the beach plums found on the shore. And in 1659, Samuel Willies purchased Plum Island for a coat, a barrel of biscuits, and 100 fish. Over 20 families owned Plum Island over the next 250 years before the U.S. government purchased it and established Fort Terry, a heavily armed artillery artillery outpost meant to protect Long Island in New York City. After the war, the fort was deactivated, and the U.S. Department of Agriculture established Plum Island Animal Disease Center, and this is where things got interesting. The center conducts research on animal pathogens to protect farmers, ranchers, and the national food supply. Because of the nature of the research, access to the island and the research facility is top secret and highly restricted, and thus conspiracy theories run rampant. From the origins of Lyme disease, the creation of bioweapons, and the 2008 Montauk monster, the island has been referenced in The Silence of the Lambs and Nelson DeMille's book Plum Island. In recent years, the shroud of secrecy had begun to lift. Discussions of selling the island have come and gone, but the island still remains in government hands.
They were doing all sorts of crazy experiments there, bro.
They probably still are.
Guys, we have officially entered the world's second space race. Because according to documents obtained by Politico, NASA's acting administrator will soon announce plans for the US to fast-track their launch of a nuclear reactor to the moon. Now, apparently their reason for moving up the timeline is because NASA desperately wants to beat China and Russia, who have actually teamed up to launch their own nuclear reactor on the moon. And the thing is, whoever establishes their reactor first, well, they will have first dibs to declare what's known as a keep-out zone. And that will essentially limit what other countries can do nearby on the lunar surface. But America doesn't like keep-out zones on Earth or in space, unless it's called the southern border. So, with the China-Russia project only meant to launch in 2035, the USA said, aight, let's run it by 2030. And even a senior NASA official whose identity was kept anonymous was reported saying it is about winning the second space race. Now, you'll be happy to hear this nuclear reactor isn't for starting Universe War I. In fact, according to NASA themselves on those same documents, it will, quote, lay the groundwork to be able to support a future lunar economy for high-powered energy generation on Mars and to strengthen national security in space. There it is. My bad. Guess I'll catch you on the lunar front line.
There ain't enough war already. Now we've got to have it on the bloody moon.
The moon ain't real, bro.
If you asked me like a year ago, I would have said, no, it must be alien technology, blah, blah, blah. The more I learn about the science and the more I find all this science and scientists and engineers out there talking about this since the 80s, the more sure I am about, or less sure I am about where this all comes from. Like, to me now, everything's on the table. It could be a situation where aliens are a big psyop, and I would argue they are a psyop even if they exist, because we're dangling the keys, saying, look over here at aliens, all these disclosure advocates, all these UFO hearings that we're doing in Congress, where are the biologics? Where are the alien bodies? In order for us to actually teleport an object like that, I think this holographic principle has to be true, which presents the idea that all points in space and time are connected. This is actually what Ben Rich's response was when Ben Rich, director of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works for 16 years, he says, we have the power to take ET home. Anything that you could imagine, we've already figured it out, but it's stuck in black projects that will take an act of God to get access to. Well, I'm not God, but I'm exposing that technology to the world. And somebody asked him, like, when you said all that, well, what did you mean by that? And he goes, well, let me ask you this. How does ESP work? And the guy goes, well, that's a weird question. He goes, well, all points in space and time are connected? And Ben Rich says, exactly.
So UFOs are just part of the simulation.
We're not in a simulation, bro.
If things flying in a Nevada desert that are 50 years beyond what you could comprehend. If you've seen it on Star Wars or Star Trek, we've been there, done that, or decided it wasn't worth the effort. So that's coming from Ben Rich. Ben Rich headed the Skunk Works between 1975 and 1991. This is the original letter from Ben Rich on Lockheed Advanced Aeronautics Company letterhead. I am a believer, and so is Kelly Johnson. And here it says, Dear Ben, there are two categories. A, man-made UFOs. B, extraterrestrial UFOs. Dear John, yes, I'm a believer in both categories. I feel everything is possible. Many of our man-made UFOs were unfunded opportunities. In both categories, there are lots of kooks and charlatans. Be cautious, Ben Rich.
He was right about the last part.
Shut up, bro.
You had mentioned several times that you think that the UFO, UAP phenomena stuff is all spiritual.
I'm satisfied that I know enough, and I don't really want to know that much more. Because what I think I know is, this doesn't help me at all to know that. So that's the conclusion I've reached. I'm usually pretty curious. I've stopped being curious about this because I don't want to know anymore.
You truly don't want to know anymore about it?
I think I know. I think I know what's up. So I can't prove it, so probably not to articulate it, but I think I know what's up, yeah.
Can you articulate it?
Well, I think it's a really old story. I think it's a really old story, so.
What is it?
Well, one, I'm a Christian and I'm fairly sincere about it. I try to be sincere about it.
What was it that led you to believe?
Talking to a lot of people. I was really shocked by what credible people told me. I became completely satisfied, I'll say that they were not lying, and that they were right or in the vicinity of right. And then I was like, whoa, I'm out. Because I don't need to go farther than that. I mean, I think that the real struggles are unseen. That is absolutely a part of Christian theology. I didn't fully appreciate it at all. The belief that the real struggles are in the spiritual realm. That has been a constant belief since the beginning of history, recorded history. Everybody has thought that, except us in the West, since 1945. So once you get perspective on this question, you're like, okay, that may sound crazy to someone who thinks buying on Amazon is the meaning of life, but to every other person in the world, we may disagree about what the truth is. I'm sure we will, but we will never disagree with the fact that there's a lot of shit going on that we cannot see or measure with our senses. That is absolutely true. What I find so striking about the UFOs, this is the main takeaway I have, is like, there's this debate. Is this stuff, these phenomena, which are clearly, obviously real? I mean, there's no debate about that. There's a lot of that people can't explain in the sky and underwater. We know that. Fact. So the debate is this government technology? Is it from outer space, or is it some spiritual realm here? I've already told you my view of it. But what I find so interesting, we know the government's lied about it. They're lying about it now. That's a fact. There's no way around that. They have absolutely lied about it in very elaborate ways. I am really struck. Here's my current thinking on it. The main effort that the U.S. government has put into its disinformation, its lying on this topic, has been not to mislead you on the technology. They're not telling me they don't have anti-gravity technology. It sounds from watching your podcast that they do. Their main interest is in convincing you that the supernatural is not real. And if you watch, and there are people in the media who specialize in spreading these lies on behalf of the government. I'm not going to name anybody, but like some of them work. Once you realize what the point of the exercise is, it's crazy. And I hope you'll assess all the fact-checking and the skepticism on UAPs through this lens. The main thing they want you to believe is the supernatural is not real. Well, then you have to ask yourself, like, why?
That's interesting.
There's a lot we don't know about UAPs, bro. But we'll have to save that for next time.
Hold up, Ted, we've got to do the giveaway.
Leave a comment for a chance to win in our next episode. Let's do this, bro.
Bang bang!
Blah, blah.
Print something from our website and we'll send it straight out.
That's TerrorTedsTowels.com. Shout out everyone buying the merch, bro.
And a big thanks to all our channel members.
Join the Discord, bro. It's free.
And as always, thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.